Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix a fault on a Hotpoint Aquarius dishwasher, and this one here is model FDW20P. It's actually nearly 20 years old, this machine. It's from about 2008. The problem with this one was that the error code was shown up as the pre-wash light and the rinse light both flashing together, and you can reset it by turning off and turn off at the mains and leave it for 20 minutes and then come back and reset, and it will probably restart the cycle. And sometimes that would work and sometimes it wouldn't, but it's been getting progressively worse. So I've got a quick fix that I can show you. It's just a case of cleaning a particular area and that should solve your problem. And to do the job, basically all you need is a couple of bottle brushes, a couple of containers just to drain off the filter bowl. So let's get started. The first thing is to isolate it from the mains. So we've done that. You don't need to disconnect anything else. The tools you're going to need, as I say, are the bottle brush, and really all you need is a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver. But while I'm doing the job, I thought I'd also fit a new pressure switch, which is that item there, basically because I bought it to try and fix a problem. So other than the screwdriver, you might find a pair of pliers would come in handy when you're fitting this new pressure switch, if that's what you want to do. So the manual under troubleshooting says that lights 1 and 3 flashing indicates a clogged filter, which is obviously, I'll just take the bottom basket out. So that's where your filter's located, and that can just be exposed by taking the filter out. But that wasn't the problem on ours. So I looked online. Hotpoint's website indicates that lights 1 and 3 indicate pressure switch non-compliant. Well, that's your pressure switch, which is why I bought a new one. And it says possibly the pressure switch faulty, or the pressure switch tube is damaged, or there's water in the air trap and the air trap might be damaged. So I've got a pressure switch anyway. I actually fitted that and it didn't make any difference. So I thought that rather than scrap it, having spent about £60 on these two parts alone, I thought I'd just have one more look at it and see if I could find what the problem is. And what I've found is that the problem is in this unit here and its connection to the pressure switch. Right, and quite simply, that there's a blockage between the outlet from the filter bowl to the pressure switch tube, which comes out here. Now, there's 3 outlets from the filter bowl. This first one here is the outlet of clean water that goes to the pressure pump that supplies water to the spray arms here. This one in the bottom is the one that goes to the drain pump. But there's actually a third outlet here, and that on this side, down under this little pin, that if you feel with your fingers, you'll feel that there's an opening in here, and that leads into a chamber that then leads onto the pressure switch system. And the problem that I found is that there was a lot of congealed fat and limescale inside that chamber that you couldn't see from the filter bowl itself. And so the solution is just to simply flush that hidden chamber out. I mean, I'll put the finger in there, and that's it there. You can see that I get my finger right in there. Well, that was completely gunged up, and that needs cleaning out. So that's where I used your bottle brush, and if you put that in there and work it into the void, you'll find that there's probably quite a lot of muck comes out of there, and that interferes with the pressure switch system. So that's basically where the problem is. So you could just simply try that as a solution, see if you can clean it out, but a much more thorough way of cleaning it out is to take the panels off the dishwasher and get to the pressure switch hose, which is under this right hand side panel, and I'll show you how to take that all apart now. We'll get it stripped down to the side, get the sides off it, expose the pressure switch itself, and then the idea of that is you can get access to the hose that comes off the top here, and I use the hose to help clean out the chamber within the filter housing. So I'll go ahead and take the thing apart now. So first of all, there's just a plastic backing that you can pull off quite easily, and then that exposes the screws that you need to get at. Now the top itself is held on with a screw here and another one here, so you can take those off, push that forward like that, and it comes off these little clips here. But to get the side panels off, these are held on by 6 small screws. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around the top and back of it, and then 4 screws at the front, 1, 2, and then there are 2 down here, but they're behind this plastic valance at the front of the machine, and we have to take the valance off first. Now the valance is held on by just 1 single screw on each side, which you can just see in there. It's that screw in there. So there's one this side and one the far side, so we'll get that off. Okay, so that's this screw off this side, same again on the other side, and then you have to ease it off. Okay, so that just pulls out from a couple of tabs there, takes a bit of wiggling. So that leaves us with 1, 2, there's an awkward little screw up here, 3, 4 screws on the front face of the side panel, and these 4 screws have nylon washers underneath them. Okay, so I've got all the screws off the back of the panel, the 2 screws holding the top, the four screws holding the front of the panel. That will just pull off now. I'll do the same with the other side, and this top rail at the back will also come loose as you take all the screws off. That can then just be lifted away. It's got a polystyrene block underneath it. Just make sure you reset that when you put it all back together. And similarly, taking all the screws off the other side, and that again, that panel will then come off, exposing the side. This is the pressure switch, and there's this hose that comes from the pressure switch and goes into the chamber that is connected to the filter bowl. That's the outside of the filter bowl that I showed you earlier from the other side of it. Okay, according to the fault codes in the Hotpoint manual, there could be a problem with this pressure switch or the hose. That might have a split in it or a leak, or the switch might be faulty. I've checked those, they were okay on this machine, but it was still throwing up the fault. So looking deeper into it, as I say, what I found was that the problem was congealed grease and all the rest of it within a sort of cuboid chamber in this part of the filter bowl. So what I'm going to do, or what I did, was, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out of that when we clean it, I'm just going to put something in there to stop the muck going into the pressure pump outlet, because we don't really want all that stuff to be going around the machine. And then what I did, disconnected the hose from the pressure switch, and taking the hose up here. Let's just tuck it under there for a minute. So what we need to do now is get some water into the filter bowl, fill it up to just about the top level. So that's filled up to there. Now what that's going to do is, that's brought the water level up to about the top of that grey housing there, because that's the housing that's full of all the muck that you need to clean out. And then you can just about see the end of the hose there where it goes into the top of the housing. So basically what you've got to do is clear all the gunge out of that area, and the only way of doing it is to work it through into the filter bowl and clean it out of the filter bowl. And I did that by blowing through the top of the hose, and if you do it sort of fairly aggressively, then it dislodges the fatberg, as I call it, and dislodges it, and it comes into the filter bowl. And I then use these two empty yogurt pots. I mean, you could use a suction pump if you have one, but I use these two yogurt pots to then drain the water and the muck that came through with it, and drained it out with these two. So the first of these pots, I just made a hole in the bottom, just on the side there, so that I could then push it in. It would fill up, sucking in the muck and the gunge with it, and then obviously tip that in there like that, clearing out. And this, I mean it's all clean now because I've cleaned it out, but when I did the job, this was full of gunge. You wouldn't want to eat your food off it. And then obviously tip that away, and so on and so on. Now, what I did, as I say, to stir all the gunge up, I initially just blew down the end of the hose, and that then dislodged a lot of the gunge, and that came through into the filter bowl. And I'll just blow on the tube now, and you'll see it bubbling through into the filter bowl. Now, by doing that quite a few times, it dislodged all sorts of stuff. And then obviously you bail it out with your yogurt pots or whatever you've got. You bail it out and refill it with fresh water, and do the same again until the thing gets completely cleaned out. And then once it's relatively clean, I then used one of my bottle brushes, and that then pushed in, and I worked that around inside that sort of cuboid chamber in there like this. And again, you know, you could blow through the tube while you're doing that to help free up and dislodge all the muck that's in there. I mean, whether you choose to blow through the tube, considering what it's fixed to at the other end, is up to you. Anyway, that's what was involved, and by continually doing that, working away with the brush and blowing through the tube, replacing the water, refreshing the water, bailing it out, over a period of time, it cleaned all the muck out, and basically left me with clean water, and that was that. So that sorted the problem, but since I'd already bought a new pressure gauge, a new pressure switch, which was this thing here, and the tube was already disconnected, I took the opportunity to fit the new switch anyway, and I'll just do that, and you'll see what's involved in that. Well, basically the pressure switch is held in place with this sort of these tangs here, and it's got a electrical connector on the back, and then there's obviously the hose connector. So that just pushes into a hole here, and just by squeezing the squeezing the ears, you can push that. Okay, so that's loose now. And then by squeezing the tangs on the electrical connector, that will come apart like that, and then we can refit the new one. Okay, that's the electrical connector refitted, and then we just take that and offer it back up to the hole, push it through, and it slides down, and then it's just simply a matter of reattaching the hose. So that's a new pressure switch fitted. The only other thing I did while I was fiddling about with this was to refit, was to fit a new nut and seal in there, and that just unscrews fairly simply, and it's got a rubber seal in it, which on mine the seal had perished and wasn't making a good seal. So that's all it took to sort out the fault on this machine. Obviously, before we finish, take your whatever you had blocking that little channel off, and it's just a matter of reassembling. So first thing would be the filter, and as I said, that goes with the wider chamfered piece at the top, like that, and then obviously your filter goes in like that. So that's basically what it took to sort out the error code with lights 1 and 3 flashing. It's just a matter of putting it all back together again now, getting the panels back on, and as I say, you don't have to buy those new parts. They weren't essential to fix the problem. All you needed to do was to clean out that muck that was in the side of the filter chamber, and that would have done the job. Could have saved yourself 60 quid if I'd have just done that in the first place, but after 18 years I suppose it's not done any harm to spend some money on the machine, and it's still doing a good job. Before I wrap up, one of the other things it did suggest was that there was, for that fault, was that there was water in the air trap. Well, this is the air trap, and as far as I can see, it's meant to, this is the air trap, and as far as I can see, it's meant to have water. It's meant to be at that level. Everything works fine with the water at that level, so I'm not quite sure why it said there was the water in the air trap was a fault, because to me, that's how it needs to be. If you did need to replace this, because obviously it's got a little micro switch and presumably some sort of valve on there, that is held in place with a nut on the inside that you can see there. So that's what holds that in place. But, you know, I didn't need to replace it. So all I need to do now is reassemble everything. These little polystyrene pads go in there, and then the sides go back on. So easy fix. You could do it without any expenditure at all. And as I say, this has been a very reliable machine. It's been really effective for over 18, what is it, 18 years? Something like that. So better to get it running again rather than take it up the tip. Anyway, I hope that's been some use to you. Just make sure you keep yourself safe doing it. If you need help, obviously get in touch with somebody who might know, be a bit more competent around electrics and that. But at the end of the day, it's a fairly straightforward job. So if you're confident and able to do it, give it a try. Okay,